Welcome back to Estoril. It is time for the Grand Prix 2 World Championship 1990 Portuguese Grand Prix from the Retro Racing Managers League, brought to you by Clapham North MOT, Stopwatch Hospitality and GoBobby.uk. Jake Sanson here once again as we prepare for our managers to go to battle once more on the Grand Prix of Portugal circuit here at Estoril. It is going to be a close one. After pre-qualifying, we now know that Monteverde, Coloni and Minardi will join the top 10 teams for this incredible action. And it's going to be a fascinating Grand Prix as we figure out who is going to take the next big victory in this 1990 season. If you're a Ferrari fan, it's time to get those Ferrari banners waving. It is Nigel Mansell who takes pole position in the Ferrari alongside Ayrton Senna's McLaren. Alessandro Nannini did a cracking job in qualifying. He puts the Benetton in P3 alongside Alain Prost in the Brabham. Heinz-Harald Frentzen puts the Tyrrell in a solid 5th place alongside Mauricio Gugelmin in the Leighton House. Then Gerhard Berger's McLaren alongside the leading Williams, only 8th for Thierry Boutsen. Andrea De Cesaris is 9th in the Lotus alongside Ivan Capelli. Jean Alesi was fed up with 11th position alongside Riccardo Patrese, even more so as the championship leader. Adrian Fernandez is ahead of Nelson Piquet. The two will be teammates in 1991. The Ligier pair of Nicola Larini and Eddie Cheever come next, and then it's Derek Warwick alongside a very disgruntled Mika Hakkinen, way down in 18th on the grid, as Stefano Modina's Ferrari is only 19th alongside Michele Alboreto. Then it's Martin Brundle, the fastest driver from pre-qualifying, alongside his Minardi teammate Pierluigi Martini. JJ Leto in the Monteverde and Bertrand Gachot in the Coloni is ahead of his teammate Ukyo Katayama, with Eric Bernard down at the back of the field. So the cars are ready in position as we prepare for action in this Portuguese Grand Prix. Nigel Mansell in the Ferrari from pole position. Ayrton Senna's McLaren in 2nd place. And then we have the Benetton of Alessandro Nannini in 3rd, just a shave ahead of Alain Prost. The red lights are on. Let's race at Estoril. Cracking start from Nigel Mansell. He gets the textbook start in the Ferrari. No problems at all. Gugelmin is on a flyer. He's up to 3rd position in the Leighton House. Could even get 2nd by the first corner. He has a look at Senna, but he can't get through. So it is Mansell, Senna and Gugelmin from Prost and Nannini round the outside of Frentzen to put the Benetton back into 5th position. Capelli's made a flying start as well, as he is now 7th. So the Leighton House cars are up to 3rd and 7th at the start. Cracking beginning to the race for those two. Piquet getting stuck behind one of the Williams cars. They've had a terrible weekend thus far. Boutsen is 9th and Patrese is only 14th, and he's the championship leader. So we're already off to a rip-roaring start in the Portuguese Grand Prix as Mansell leads in the Nike Ferrari ahead of Ayrton Senna and Mauricio Gugelmin. It's 5 different teams it's 6 different teams in the top 6 places, as it's Ferrari, McLaren, Leighton House, Brabham, Benetton and Tyrrell. So a thrilling start to proceedings. We've had several winners over the course of the season. Gerhard Berger won the US Grand Prix for McLaren as we ride on board with Ivan Capelli in 7th place. Then it was Nelson Piquet in the Benetton in Brazil. And they haven't won a race since, rather sadly. San Marino was when Mika Hakkinen took his maiden Grand Prix win to become the youngest Grand Prix winner in history for the Brabham team. Then Ayrton Senna finally got the win in the McLaren, and he's going for the win here alongside Nigel Mansell in the Ferrari. They're side by side down to turn 1, and Senna is pushing for it on the inside line. He gets the lead, so Senna takes the lead away from Mansell in the Ferrari, who has to settle for 2nd. So after Senna's win at Monaco, it was nearly back-to-back wins for the Brazilian, but then his engine blew on the last lap, would you believe? And so it was Jean Alesi that took the victory in the Tyrrell. He then did it again in Mexico. Thierry Boutsen got the win in France in the Williams. And Heinz-Harald Frentzen then got back-to-back wins at Silverstone and Germany. The Hungarian Grand Prix was won by Alessandro Nannini in the Benetton, as Frentzen now makes his move past him into 5th place. Then we had a victory for Ayrton Senna at Spa in a crazy race in Belgium. And then last time out, it was Thierry Boutsen who won again from pole position in the Williams, although it was a lot tougher than just winning from pole. So here's Prost in the Brabham, trying to get close to Gugelmin in the Leighton House as he shapes up for an opportunity to go for an overtake. It's not going to be so easy to get this move done, but Nigel Mansell in the Ferrari is trying to get close again to Senna, who has just bolted a brilliant lap out of the bag. And now Gugelmin has got Prost on the warpath. Alain Prost diving down the straight, hoping for a good run as Senna takes command of the Portuguese Grand Prix. He wants to win the title. And Prost alongside Gugelmin as they run side by side for 3rd position. Who's going to get there? It is Prost. So Prost does get there into 3rd place. Frentzen is currently P5 ahead of Nannini, Capelli, Berger, Boutsen, Cheever, Piquet, Alesi and Patrese. So Alain Prost running well in the Brabham in third position at this moment in time. He's committed to them for 1991. He feels like there's a good potential in the new Ilmore engine which is coming. So as far as Brabham are concerned, 1991 could be a very solid season. They have a winning car, but in the hands of Alain Prost, it has yet to win in this season. Although he did finish second last time out at Monza, which is definitely a fabulous performance from him. So this could be a fascinating situation for the teams as Alain Prost runs in third position, trying to close up on Mansell. So Ayrton Senna in the McLaren leads the way with the Honda engines. Oh, and that's Gasho yet again. He spun in the pre-qualifying session and now he's spun in the race. Well, not good news for the Belgian, who will move to the Ferrari team next year as their official test driver to make way for a couple of other incumbents at the Coloni team. So not good news from their point of view as Bertrand Gachot continues on his way, but having lost a fair amount of time. Now, those are the fastest lap times currently at the moment. Senna is the fastest on track. Interestingly, Eddie Cheever is the second fastest driver on track in the Ligier, ahead of Berger's McLaren, then Mansell. And then to look through the rest of the field, you have to find Hakkinen, who is down in 20th at this moment in time. But he is still the fifth fastest man in the race. So fascinating data there as Gugelmin goes around. I can't believe it. Mauricio Gugelmin was doing such a good job. And the Brazilian had definitely put the Leighton House in a good position. But now Gugelmin has thrown away fifth place. That's so disappointing for the Brazilian because he's out of the race. Goodness me. So it looks as though he stalled the engine after that spin. So Gugelmin spins out while running in fourth position just behind Alain Prost. So a big disaster for Gugelmin. And I'm afraid the Brazilian has definitely blotted his copybook there. Team boss Andrew Sanson is not going to be happy. And I think we've got a problem for one of the Monteverdis. It's Bernard. Bernard has got a problem. So he's trying to bring the car back to the pits for repairs. And I think it's a throttle issue. So Bernard will bring the car back into the pits now. And sadly, the Frenchman who is going to the Ligier team in 1991 will drop to the back of the field. Now, this is Jean Alesi in the Tyrrell, who's had a very frustrating weekend thus far. He's generally given to being one of the faster drivers within the team, but here at Estoril, it's Frentzen that's got the upper hand on him. And Frentzen's up to third, I can tell you. Frentzen has got past Prost for third. So a brilliant bit of racing there as Alain Prost has to concede the place. Let's look at how Frentzen did it. Textbook move from the German as he slices by, and so the Tyrrell goes up into third position. Great bit of racecraft there from Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and so Alain Prost has to settle for fourth. So the race continues, and it's Senna, Mansell, Frentzen, Prost, Capelli, Nannini, Berger, Cheever and Boutsen as we watch Adrian Fernandez. The footwork partnership with Arrows in 1990 has not actually been flourished with as much success as they would have hoped for. So they are now going to be switching tack in 1991. They're going to be supported by BMW. And Adrian Fernandez's chief sponsor, Tecate, is now becoming a major part of the branding for Arrows in 1991. So that's a complete rebrand for the Arrows team. The footwork relationship has not gone according to plan. Here's Nigel Mansell in the Ferrari, second position at the moment, looking for solid points, which the Ferrari team could definitely do with in terms of their hunt for the Constructors' Championship, or at least as much prize money as they can possibly get from it in 1990. Here's Gachot in the Coloni, having had his earlier spin. He has now recovered. He's in front of Eric Bernard. But just the one retirement, and it's the Brazilian Mauricio Gugelmin, who unfortunately has been dropped by the Leighton House team, which will become the Honda Works outfit for 1991. And after a performance like that in the early stages, a great start and then spinning out of fourth place and stalling the engine, it kind of makes sense as to why. And they're going for an all-Japanese lineup in 1991. It will be Aguri Suzuki, who teams up with Ukyo Katayama, two drivers who were in pre-qualifying, and they will stay there as the Works Honda outfit. Look at the lead that Senna has pulled on Mansell over these last few laps. Senna in the McLaren has just disappeared out in front. He's joining the Williams team in 1991 with their Porsche engines now confirmed. And that's Cheever in the Ligier, making a great impression on this race. He's up into 7th place. So a great performance from Cheever in the Ligier. And the American obviously trying to bow out of Formula 1 on a high. He was going to be completely out of the sport, but he's just leaving the Ligier team. And I say he'll bow out of Formula 1. He will still have a presence in Formula 1 next year because he's going to be joining the Lola team as their test driver, helping his younger brother Ross to build up his caliber in the squad because he is their development driver and he'll be in F3000. That's Nannini being passed by Alesi. Alesi storms through in the Tyrrell. Now he's making his comeback as the Benettons slither down to 8th and slither down to 9th and 11th. Oh, and that's Leto. Leto has gone off in the Monteverde, and it's because he's got a loose wheel. So something's happened to Leto. The man who won the pre-qualifying race is not, I'm afraid, going to be going any further in this one. So JJ Leto pulls the car off the road, and the Monteverde is out. So their race is already compromised in the Grand Prix, despite winning in pre-qualifying. JJ Leto is out of the Portuguese Grand Prix of 1990. So he will not repeat his podium of last year. The wing is broken as it's recovered through the gravel trap. Frentzen is now in 3rd position ahead of Prost and Capelli, who is now in 5th place in the Leighton House. So the other Leighton House still has a good chance of a solid finish ahead of Berger, Cheever and Alesi. So it's now all up to the Italian, Ivan Capelli, who is actually moving to the Monteverde team next year. Leighton House obviously now becoming the main sponsor of the Honda Works team next year rather than the chief operations. They've split with March, who will now re-enter Formula 1 under their own steam. So Honda and March will be independent entities in 1991. And we heard earlier on in the Go Bobbit Cup qualifying race that Lola and Larousse are splitting for next season. Larousse will focus their attentions on the world of F3000 racing. Oh, and that's a Benetton on fire. That's one of the Benettons. It's Nelson Piquet. Piquet's out. Well, that's a big problem for the 3-times world champion. But I'm afraid Nelson Piquet is out of the Portuguese Grand Prix. He will join Arrows in 1991. And I'm afraid that is all over and done with for Nelson Piquet as the Brazilian. Well, he's still motoring around the circuit, even with the engine failure. So that's very unsporting from Piquet as he continues to run around the circuit. But the field now does pass the stricken Benetton, and he will retire from the race, the 3-times world champion. So Senna leads Mansell by 7 seconds now. He's pulling away to the tune of a second per lap. And that has got to be due to a lighter fuel load for Senna. I wonder if he's on a 3-stop strategy, because I think we're told that essentially there is going to be a very interesting split of strategies. Some teams might go for 1 stop, others might go for 2, others might even go for 3, and that certainly looks like that's what Senna's doing, going for a 3-stop. Mansell looks like he might be going for a 1-stop in the Ferrari. Frentzen could be on a 2-stop. So a fascinating battle amongst the leading drivers for who is going to do what in terms of fuel strategy. There's Nicola Larini. We're having a look now at the drivers who are setting fastest times. And Eddie Cheever in the Ligier is on an absolute charge as he continues to make progress through the field. As Larini loses the place there. So Larini loses the position to Mika Hakkinen in the Brabham, who is trying to climb his way through the field. He's on a 3-stop strategy as well by the look of it. So Hakkinen desperately trying to get himself back into a competitive position. But I think Hakkinen's getting fairly irritated at the position. He was the lead driver in the Brabham team until Alain Prost showed up, and now Hakkinen is really struggling to get the benefit of the Brabham team. So Mansell, 8 seconds back, losing a second a lap to Senna, but Senna is on a 3-stop strategy by the look of it. Mansell may even be dramatically on a 1-stop strategy. So Mansell and the Ferrari team are definitely not out of contention for this Grand Prix, as Mansell just continues to solidly work his race. If he's on a 1-stop strategy, then that's very good pace indeed from the Ferrari, as he's only losing a second a lap to Senna's McLaren. But of course, Senna will have to make 2 more pit stops than Mansell's Ferrari if it goes like this. And that is the other Ferrari of Stefano Modena. He is on a 2-stop, I may even say a 3-stop strategy there. So they've decided to split the initiative a little bit there between the two Ferrari drivers as Michele Alboreto in the Arrows gets through. Now he is joining Lotus for 1991 alongside Derek Warwick. So Alboreto seems to have found a new lease of life again by signing a deal with a team of the caliber of the Lotus team, and that's definitely given him something to focus in on as he will replace Andrea De Cesaris, his fellow countryman. We're actually watching De Cesaris there in the battle with Fernandez and Derek Warwick. Here's Capelli swarming around behind Alain Prost, and I think we've got that's Eddie Cheever on his light fuel load, making a move on Berger's McLaren. Well, that's brave from Eddie Cheever. He's not quite been able to make it stick, but now he's watching as Gerhard Berger closes up on Prost and Capelli. They're having a terrific scrap over 4th place. So Mansell still runs second in the Ferrari. There's a lot of interest in the 1991 season. Looks like it's going to be an absolute thriller amongst the teams, as we now know the identities of who's going to be driving where. Nigel Mansell will stay at Ferrari in 1991, and he will be joined by the young German protege Michael Schumacher, as team boss Chris Cavani has spotted something in him that gives him full confidence that he should be a Ferrari driver. So it will be fascinating to see how that relationship goes. Here's Frentzen, running in 3rd place in the Tyrrell. He will remain with the team in 1991 alongside Jean Alesi. Team boss Sam Hall's reaction is a very simple one. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So he's opted to keep them together, with test driver being Satoru Nakajima of the Honda outfit, because he will continue with Honda development in 1991. And the Swedish driver Rickard Rydell, who's going to be doubling up in the world of Formula 3000 and touring car driving, I do believe, in 1991. Ferrari will also be joined alongside Mansell and Schumacher will be Bertrand Gachot on their testing strength, and the Swiss driver Gregor Foytek. At McLaren, it's going to be a bit interesting. New team boss Dave Goddard has kept Gerhard Berger. He has also brought Alessandro Nannini into the team, and based on his qualifying pace earlier, Nannini is a good appointment because he was 3rd on the grid after a brilliant qualifying session compared to Nelson Piquet, who was outside the top 10 in qualifying. As Nicola Larini battles his way there with Derek Warwick in the Lotus, who has now got ahead of him. And Hakkinen has got past both drivers in the mix there as well. So some interesting battles all the way through this field as the competitors continue on their way. There's the fastest laps. So Senna is still lapping quicker than anybody else. He's the only driver in the 117s at the moment. Another 117 from Senna as he comes through this time. But that gap he's got over Mansell. Let's look at the difference between Senna and Mansell in terms of lap times. A 1:18.7, so a good 0.8 of a second a lap quicker. Frensen's not doing badly. Here's Cheever making his bid to get past Gerhard Berger. Prost and Capelli come through without too many dramas. But Nannini's going quickly. See, Cheever once again tries to put the Renault-engined Ligier on the inside there of the McLaren, and he just doesn't quite have the gumption or the straight line speed advantage to make it work as Berger runs wide. Is that enough for Capelli? Is that enough for Cheever to have another look? He's certainly thinking about it on lap 13 of 71, and Jean Alesi and Alessandro Nannini are lining up a move as well, so there could be some dramatic battles through the field. Now the Williams team are going to have Ayrton Senna alongside Thierry Boutsen for the 1991 season, and they will take Porsche engines, so that could be a fascinating combination. Paul Warwick is going to be in the team for 1991 as well, as he comes over from the Porsche Works outfit. He will be the team's test driver, and they're banking on young Brazilian star Gil de Ferran as their development driver. Over at Brabham, it will be unchanged in the 2 race seats, Alain Prost and Mika Hakkinen. Yannick Dalmas will become the team test driver, and Emmanuel Collard is actually being loaned to the Brabham team from Renault as their development driver, which is fairly interesting. I would have thought that he would have ended up at Lotus, but they've decided to give him to the Brabham team to do development work. As up on the inside, that's Capelli on Prost, and Cheever is on Berger, but he can't get by. He's doing his best, but there's absolutely nothing between these 2 pairs of 2 drivers. So a fascinating duel continues here. Over at Benetton next year, it's all change in every position. Martin Brundle and Mark Blundell will become the Benetton race drivers next year as Nannini moves to the McLaren team and Piquet moves to Arrows. And the team test driver is due to be the outgoing AGS driver Roberto Guerrero for Benetton. He's looking forward to that because he can dovetail it with his IndyCar program. And alongside him, the young driver they've picked is going to be Alex Caffey, as Senna laps the Monteverde on the final corner here at Estoril. And that's Eric Bernard having another crack at Ayrton Senna. Surely he can't unlap himself, but he's certainly using the slipstream to good effect, Eric Bernard. That's the fastest he's been in a straight line in this race. But Senna continues to pull out the gap as Mika Häkkinen there battles away with Adrian Fernandez. Speaking of which, the Arrows team is going to keep the Mexican next year. They'll take BMW engines, and Nelson Piquet will join the Arrows team along with Scott Goodyear as team test driver, along with his IndyCar commitments, and young German star Michael Bartels will become the team's development driver. Castrol Lotus Renault is going to be the official name of Lotus next year. They become the factory effort of Renault in 1991 with Derek Warwick and Michele Alboreto. And that's going to be a good partnership for Warwick because, of course, he was part of the Renault factory team a few years ago. And Philippe Alliot will be the team's test driver. Nice French flavour there. And the Italian star Vincenzo Sospiri is going to be their development driver. So there's a lot of other teams that have made some interesting choices. We've already talked about the Leighton House Honda outfit, which is essentially officially Honda Racing, but they will keep Leighton House backing, along with a few other interesting teams, a few interesting brands coming in. But it will be an all-Japanese lineup. Oguri Suzuki and Ukyo Katayama will be the race drivers. Hideki Noda will be team test driver, and Naoki Hattori will be the development driver. At Converse BMS Dallara, not much will change at all. Johnny Herbert stays in the team. Gianni Morbidelli comes over from the Ferrari testing program. As Ivan Capelli tries again on Prost. Not going to happen, Ivan. You're going to have to try a lot harder than that, but he's working his magic. He's doing the best he can. So a fascinating run as Alain Menu will join the Dallara team's testing program, and the Italian youngster Fabrizio Giovanardi will become the team's development driver. Playboy Ligier, Riccardo Patrese will move there, which could be very beneficial to the Ligier team because they could have a world champion in their squad, as Patrese is currently leading the Drivers' Championship. So Riccardo Patrese will join Eric Bernard at a fully rebranded Ligier team with Renault backing. And Jean-Marc Gounod and Jean-Christophe Bouillon will become test and development drivers, respectively. We're also going to see Lola split forces from the Roos team, as we mentioned. And Senna is into the pit. So Senna is in for his first pit stop. So that is why he's been pushing so hard. He is indeed on a 3-stop strategy, as we guessed. So Mansell takes the lead of the Portuguese Grand Prix. Frentzen goes into second. Prost and Capelli will go by into third and fourth. But Frentzen is catching Mansell too, so this could be interesting as Capelli comes into the pits. So Capelli is in the pits, and so too is Eddie Cheever. So all of the 3 stoppers pretty much coming in together. Now this is worth keeping an eye on as well. Cheever in the Ligier pits, so does Capelli. Oh, they got a little bit confused by each other there in the pits. That's going to be a problem. So Capelli stops a fraction of a second before Cheever, but is he going to be delayed? Oh, Cheever's going to get out of the pits ahead. A brilliant bit of pit work from Ligier as they jump the Leighton House team in the pit lane. Fabulous work from the Leighton House crew, but even better from Ligier as they have now jumped their rivals. So Mansell leads, Frentzen is second, Prost is third, Berger is fourth from Alesi, Boutsen, Patrese, Nannini and Senna. So Senna is in 9th place now. Be worth picking up on him, seeing how he's doing behind the Benetton. There's Berger in the first of the McLarens. We need to look back and see where Senna is. There is Senna having a crack at Nannini, but Nannini is not making it very good for him. Now this is a problem for the McLaren because Senna has pitted, but he's got out in a long queue of cars. Now that's a big problem because Senna will need to work his way through the cars pretty quickly. He should have a light fuel load and fresh tyres though to give him a bit of a boost on Nannini. He's onto the home straight. And his next targets will be the 2 Williams cars with their similar Honda engines to the McLaren. But Senna commits to the inside line, gets into 8th position, and now is on the charge of Boutsen and the championship leader, Riccardo Patrese. But Nigel Mansell leads the Portuguese Grand Prix. Modena is in the pits in the Ferrari. He's on his 3 pit stop strategy then as well. what else can we tell you about the lineup for next year? Lola, as we mentioned, is parting company from LaRousse, and they are going to have a completely rebranded outfit for next year. They're taking on the Italian Stefano Modena and the Brazilian Mauricio Gugelmin. So that means that Gugelmin will remain in the top tier, as will the Italian Stefano Modena. And then Eddie and Ross Cheever will come into the team. Eddie as test driver, and Ross as development driver as Mansell comes out onto the circuit directly in front of us. Oh, sorry, that's Modena coming out onto the circuit directly in front of us as we were riding on board with Bertrand Gachot. Now, Senna has already got past the Williams of Patrese. Goodness me. He made light work of Patrese there. And now he's trying to do the same on Thierry Boutsen. I'll tell you what, the Williams car is looking very heavy here today. I wonder if they're on a one-stop strategy, because Senna is making light work of Boutsen down the straight. Berger is getting on terms with Prost as into the pits comes Frentzen. Oh, sorry, no, that's Alesi. Alesi in the Tyrrell comes in. Senna tries on the inside of his new teammate for next year, Thierry Boutsen, and he can't get by. So Thierry Boutsen having a moment or two with his next teammate in Formula 1, as these two will both be part of the Williams team. And that could be very interesting indeed. So Thierry Boutsen and Ayrton Senna running around together in position. As again, Senna has a run on the Williams of Boutsen. He dives for the inside line and Senna gets the move. So he's up into 5th place. So Mansell, Frentzen, Prost, Berger, Senna, Boutsen, Patrese and Nannini. That's the order at the moment, ahead of De Cesaris and Warwick in the 2 Lotus cars. Oh, and that's Fernandez. Fernandez spins at turn 1. Oh dear. He's lost the rear wing and the front wing. Well, that's a terrible situation for Fernandez. And he's going to have to drive that car very delicately back to the pits. He's essentially now in a Formula Ford with a very fast engine indeed. As Frentzen comes into the pits in the Tyrrell in 2nd position. So that will put Senna back in front. And Frentzen, I think, is on a 2-stop strategy. So there's a lot of similarities between the first stops of the 3 stoppers and the 2 stoppers. And there is Fernandez again, stuck in the gravel trap, just trying to get himself going. Now, those arguing, is he driving around the circuit the wrong way? Technically, no, he is not, because he's on the gravel trap, so he's allowed to maneuver the car to get himself out of a decent position. To get himself back into a decent position, I should say. But the problem he's now got, Adrian Fernandez, is he's going to have to complete the whole circuit without a front or rear wing to get back to the pits. So it's a very tricky situation, but he has kept his foot on the gas. He has kept the engine running. So he gets back onto the circuit. Oh, and that's Mansell! That is Nigel Mansell. So what has happened to the Ferrari? Nigel Mansell, they had to have another look at it, but Nigel Mansell, from the lead of the race in the Ferrari, appears to have had a spin. We do know that this car is very tough to handle, and Mansell has spun the Ferrari from the lead. Absolutely unbelievable situation for Nigel Mansell. And yet again, the very treacherous handling of this Ferrari in 1990 is causing all sorts of problems, as Mansell has a great chance again to get a win, and it's not the first time this year that Mansell has spun out of the lead of a Grand Prix. He gets going again, but he will rejoin in 6th position. No, he won't, because the Lotuses are coming around the corner. He needs to get going though. Is he having trouble selecting a gear? Because he is on the racetrack. So Berger is in the pits. There goes Prost by. And this is all before Mansell has even made his pit stop. So now Mansell is able to get going again. But unfortunately now that's Mansell down to 16th position behind the Minardi of Pierluigi Martini. So a big disaster for Ferrari. We've said that a few times in 1990. As Senna has got past Boutsen and is now leading the Grand Prix again. Wow. Fascinating race at the Portuguese Grand Prix so far. I was going to continue talking about the different teams in 1991. Lamborghini are returning to, making their debut, I should say, in Formula 1. Building their own engines and cars. And so the Lamborghini Works squad is going to have Ed Spencer as team manager. And their drivers are going to be Christian Fittipaldi, the young Brazilian who's been at the Life team this year. And lady driver Kathy Muller, who has been very strong in single-seaters in 1990. Domenico Schiattarella will be the team's test driver, and Laurent Aiello, the young Frenchman, will become the reserve driver the development driver, I should say, at Campari Lamborghini for 1991. At the Lego Fondmetal team, it will be the Ulsterman Martin Donnelly and Roland Ratzenberger, the Austrian, who will join forces at Lego Fondmetal with test driver, the Spanish young star Adrian Campos, and Enrico Battaglia will be the team's development driver. Here's Warwick on the Cesaris as the two Yellow Pages Lotus cars battle away for position. So an interesting situation for them. Riccardo Patrese running a solid race in third as well, as they close up on the guys in front. Boutsen is second, Patrese is third, don't forget, as the Williams cars go a little bit further into the race than some of their colleagues in the Grand Prix. The Glenfiddich Minardi team will continue as is in 1991, as Mansell is in 14th place now in the Ferrari, trying to work his way back into the points. The Glenfiddich Minardi team will continue with Michael Gillespie as team manager. Pierluigi Martini stays at the team, but replacing Martin Brundle will be Eric Comas. And he is on the verge of wrapping up the Formula 3000 title for 1990, so it'll be a fascinating opportunity for him to get into Formula 1. As side by side down the straight, this is Fernandez, I think, who has managed to get himself back into the Grand Prix in dead last, having been lapped by the majority of the field. In fact, he's about to be lapped by Bertrand Gachot, who was actually ahead of him in race positions, as Chiva makes a little mistake there in the final sector of the lap. But I was going to talk about the team test driver at Minardi. That will be the German star Bernd Schneider, formerly at the Zakspeed team last year. He will make his return to Formula 1 in a test driving capacity, and the British driver Anthony Reid will become the team's development driver. He will also race in Formula 3000 in Japan and also in Europe in 1991. Anthony Reid has been in Japanese Formula 3000 this season. Then, of course, the Holden team. Oh, that's Chiva locking up. Gets away with it, but he can't afford to do too many more of those because Brundle, Mansell and Hakkinen are only a few seconds down the road. But, I was going to mention the Holden Racing team, which will completely rebrand the AGS team for 1991. It'll be an all-Australian outfit. Pirelli Tyres and team manager Tristan Digby will rebrand the AGS team to Holden Racing. They're going to have David Brabham and Wayne Gardner as race drivers. That'll be interesting for the motorcycle world champion. It's been a long time since John Surtees became Grand Prix world champion, having previously been a motorcycle world champion. I wonder if Wayne Gardner could be the second man to get the job done. Gabriele Tarquini will remain with the team as test driver, and they are developing the talents of the young Belgian Eric van der Poel, as in the pits comes Derek Warwick in the Lotus for his scheduled pit stop. And this is the first of two stops by the look of it. Let's confirm on the fuel. Yes, it is the first of two. Monteverdi will run Viant badged Cosworth engines next year, with team boss David Yont going for JJ Leto, who will stay at the team, and Ivan Capelli, who is going to join the team from Leighton House. Mansell has made the move, by the way, on Martin Brundle's Minardi, so that puts him up into 12th place. And Capelli and Leto will be joined at Monteverdi by Alessandro Zanardi as the team's test driver, and Rubens Barrichello, the young Brazilian 18-year-old, is going to be their development driver for the 1991 season. BMW are returning to Formula 1, this time as a works factory outfit. And Senna Stoffmeer will be the team's team principal, with Stefan Johansson returning to Formula 1 alongside the young British driver Damon Hill. Willie T. Ribbs will be the team test driver. Emanuele Naspetti is to be their development driver. Only a handful of teams remaining for the 1991 lineup. Zepter Jordan, the Irish team, who will be based at Silverstone. Oh, that's Berger! That's Berger who has spun the car. So I don't know whether he's got a problem or if he's just made a mistake, and it is the latter. So Berger has spun the McLaren in a very similar fashion to Mansell's mistake. Berger has done likewise, and he's kept the car... Oh, well, I was going to say he's kept the car pointing in the right direction when he spin turns the car. It's a little bit of a haphazard job, but Berger rejoins, but he's lost a heck of a lot more time than Nigel Mansell did. So Berger is down in 19th place now, and this is looking very tricky indeed for the McLaren driver. I was going to talk about the Zepter Jordan team, wasn't I? Team boss will be Topher Smith, who currently leads the Williams team, who are second in the Constructors' Championship. So an exciting new project for Topher. And it'll be Eddie Irvine and Carl Wendlinger who will be the team's race drivers, with Fabrizio Barbazza as the test driver. The development driver will be the young up-and-coming Finn Mikasalo. The Coloni team will have San Carlo backing, and from Honda, not from Honda, from Ferrari next year. No, it is Honda next year, as they take on the Japanese power unit. So the San Carlo Coloni Honda team will be the team on the grid next year, as Thierry Boutsen comes in from P4 to let Alessandro Nannini through into third for the moment. The team will be captained by Lewis Bassindale, who will move across from the Eurobrun outfit, which will return to the world of Formula 3000. It's going to be Andrea De Cesaris and Roberto Moreno who will look after things at the Coloni team next year on the race driver front, with Alan McNish and Paul Tracy being part of the team lineup. McNish will be test driver and Tracy will be development driver, I'm told, with the Canadian doing a combined effort of IndyCar and Formula 3000, because he still wants to keep his hand in for a Formula 1 seat in the future. Zakspeed is going to be completely overhauled next year, as they essentially become the BMW junior team, although they haven't got two juniors in the cars for the first season. They're going to build things up, from what I hear. Rick Hammercat will be the team manager, and it will be Joe Winkelhock and Tommy Byrne who will get his first serious crack at Grand Prix racing for several years, and he'll get his chance to shine in 1991, with Philippe Adams as the team test driver and German star Ellen Law as the development driver. As into the pit lane comes Riccardo Patrese, the championship leader, who is now in third place in the Williams. The McDonald's Reynard team will be on the grid next year. It was Cadbury's, now it's McDonald's. Team boss Phil Kinch will run the team, with Nicola Larini and Emanuele Pirro as drivers. And then it will be Bruno Giacomelli as team test driver and Antonio Tamburini as the reserve. And then for the final team, it will be Jägermeister March, who of course are splitting with the Leighton House Honda operation and running their own team for next year. Team boss Marcus Johansson has signed up 2 British drivers for the British team, Perry McCarthy and Julian Bailey, and it will have the Swede Thomas Danielsson as team test driver and the Frenchman Eric Hillary as their development driver. And that is the entire grid for 1991 sorted. There will be a testing event at the end of the year, which is going to be the New Zealand Grand Prix at Pukeko, which will be a demo run for the teams in their new roles, as Nannini almost loses the Benetton through the final sector. He was lucky to catch the car there, actually. So let's take a look at the lap times of the drivers out on the circuit on the current phase of things. Ayrton Senna on a 1:18.5 on the last lap. He's a lot quicker than everybody else out there, as he is dominating here at Estoril. Look, Nannini is about a second a lap slower than the Brazilian, who is absolutely determined, Ayrton Senna, to grab this World Championship title. Now that he's got a chance, he wants to make it happen. It's not been the most perfect of seasons for Ayrton Senna. He's only won twice in the 1990 World Championship, but now he knows that there's a genuine mathematical chance to win the championship. He is currently second in the Drivers' Championship, tied with Berger and Hakkinen, just 6 points behind Riccardo Patrese in the points rankings. So now Senna is more motivated and determined than ever before to get this title won. So as far as he's concerned, this is his best chance to do it, especially with Patrese currently outside the points and Senna looking good for 15. Berger is out of the top 10. So is Hakkinen, actually, because Hakkinen's on a 3-stop strategy. So Senna is definitely looking the best for the title run at the moment. Piquet's out of the race with a blown engine. Gugelmin spun out. So the next man in the competition is Derek Warwick, and he's not in the top 10 either. So a fascinating Grand Prix this is for the battles for the title. Although Alesi and Frentzen are still in the hunt. Alesi is currently 5th, Frentzen is 3rd, so the Tyrrell team are looking to score some big points again. But Ayrton Senna leads the Portuguese Grand Prix, the scene of his first ever Grand Prix win just 5 years ago in the torrential downpour when he won for Lotus. And he is looking to end his career with McLaren on a high note. He wants to become a double world champion, and he looks like he has a great chance to go to Williams as the new world champion. He just needs to keep pushing for it. Frentzen is currently 3rd. So this is a fascinating scenario for the guys up at the front. Here is Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Tyrrell, doing a grand job at the moment. And this is a great renaissance for the team that were, of course, former world champions with Jackie Stewart. They've had a great resurgence of form this year, mostly captained by Jean Alesi. And they've had a massive injection of support and backing mid-season. They are championing the new energy drink, which has only been on the market about 3 years now, the Red Bull brand, as Mansell makes his bid on Boutsen and gets by. De Cesaris has spun! De Cesaris has spun, and Alesi's gone with him! Oh my goodness! So De Cesaris and Alesi have both gone off, and that's both men out of the race. So De Cesaris and Alesi out of the Grand Prix. Now, I want to see what happened again, but it looks like we're only going to see the tail end of the incident, I'm afraid. But De Cesaris and Alesi are now both out of the Portuguese Grand Prix. We can see that spin started with De Cesaris. Alesi has too much damage after that incident to continue. There must be something broken within the suspension. So Alesi and De Cesaris out of the Grand Prix. And, well, Jean Alesi is going to be absolutely hopping mad with De Cesaris, who has ruined his chances of getting a solid finish in the Portuguese Grand Prix, as Boutsen is battling away with Eddie Cheever, I do believe. And the Williams has got through. So here's Frentzen in the Tyrrell, still running in third position, of course. The German running well. So there goes Alesi's chances of adding to his points tally in the Portuguese Grand Prix. So that's another big name gone from the equation in the title fight. Now the next one to gain is Boutsen. He's in 6th place. He's had a relatively good run of late. He won the Italian Grand Prix last time out, don't forget. Alessandro Nannini's having a solid run. Prost finishing 2nd last time out at Monza has actually leapt him up to 12th in the Drivers' Championship as well. So that just shows you how topsy-turvy this 1990 Formula 1 season has been. Here's Fernandez, and he's unlapping himself from, I think that's Brundle. No, it's Martini in the Minardi. But Brundle is having a good race here. He's in 13th ahead of Nicola Larini's Ligier and Alboretto's Arrows. Brundle could get a point here for Minardi, which would be very good news indeed for the team. Senna is coming up to lap his teammate Gerhard Berger, who is closing up on Ukyo Katayama's Coloni. But it definitely looks as though there is trouble in paradise, because now Gerhard Berger is struggling to get onto the tail of Katayama. He laps him, but Senna is coming up to lap both of them. Oh, that's a big mistake for Berger. He couldn't quite overtake Katayama's Coloni, and now Senna is going to lap him. Berger gives him no problem at all to get by, and Mansell comes into the pits for his pit stop in the Ferrari. So that's obviously going to cause a few headaches for Ferrari as he drops back down the order. But he will overtake Brundle's Minardi, who pits. And Mansell obviously is going to be lapped, I think, by Senna on the home straight. But Mansell is still in the hunt for points, at least, in the Portuguese Grand Prix. As he comes out of the pit lane. Oh, that was close. He rejoins just in front of Gerhard Berger's McLaren. But that could have been so nasty if that was mistimed. A great bit of racecraft from everybody to keep out of harm's way. But Mansell goes a lap down after his pit stop. Now Senna needs to make 2 stops. I think that's Mansell's one and only pit stop, though, as far as I can tell. Yes, it is. He's going to the end of the Grand Prix. So Mansell could just steadily climb up through the field. And that Ferrari is on a charge. Mansell is driving it beautifully as Ferrari continues to develop for next year. Prost comes into the pits in the Brabham. So Prost will drop down the order as Nannini continues in 2nd place. Frentzen is 3rd in the Tyrrell, as we know. Ivan Capelli going well in 4th place. Hakkinen has climbed his way up into 8th place. But then he'll need to make another pit stop very shortly indeed as well. So it's all looking good for Ayrton Senna to take the lead in the Drivers' Championship. And if he wins this race, he will lead the title fight by, if he gets the fastest lap, 10 points. So that will be a decent, solid advantage for him. Now Mansell is following in the wheel tracks of Ayrton Senna, because he was, of course, battling with him for the victory. So he may as well follow Senna as closely as he possibly can, because that's going to give him the best chance of fighting back into the points. There's Frentzen in the Tyrrell. 3rd position behind Alessandro Nannini's Benetton. So there's still every chance that the Tyrrell could not only get on the podium, but even could get a victory. We still don't know what's going to happen with Senna. And Nannini comes into the pits in front of us in the Benetton. So Nannini, who is finishing his Benetton partnership at the end of this season, and at the New Zealand Grand Prix at Pukekohe, he will join his new team, McLaren. as they will obviously all start to showcase their new cars in December of 1990. A non-championship race which is being revived for the 1990 season. Great to see opportunities for new countries to get involved in Grand Prix racing. And in future, New Zealand could well return to the calendar in the shape of a new Grand Prix, which is going to have a rotating slot on the calendar called the Pacific Grand Prix. It will be for any countries that are in and around the Pacific region of the world. So that will include most of Southeast Asia and obviously Oceania. There's Ivan Capelli now in third position as Ayrton Senna continues to stretch the lead. Let's look at the lap times as the drivers come through at the end of this lap. This will only pick up the drivers on the lead lap, of course. So you can see that Senna is in the 118s, still doing a fantastic job out front and pulling away in the McLaren. He's really saving his best until the end of the season, looking good to become world champion for the second time in his career. And look at the gap. Back to second place, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who is a long way back, a good half a minute back from the Brazilian. 1:19.6 is the difference in lap time pace. So Senna is making the best use of the McLaren and the Honda engine. Capelli is actually going a lot quicker than Frentzen, but Boutsen's going quicker than all of them. Patrese in the Williams is doing well. Cheever seems to have tailed off a little bit, but he's still in the top 5 thanks to his very intriguing strategy. But this is a fascinating scenario as we watch the cars go through. On lap 34 of 71, and Senna is about to go into lap 35, which is the halfway point of this Portuguese Grand Prix. Thrilling stuff from Ayrton Senna. The Brazilian doing a grand job here. 35 seconds clear of Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Tyrrell. Ivan Capelli is third in the Leighton House. Fourth is Thierry Boutsen in the Williams. And if he can get another solid finish, then he's looking very solid to move forward in the Drivers' Championship, because Alesi is out, Gugelmin is out, Piquet is out, Berger and Hakkinen are compromised down the order. Hakkinen's currently 7th, but he'll need to make another pit stop at least, possibly even 2. Patrese is currently in 6th position, but he's 46 seconds off Senna. So there's still a good chance for Williams to score points, but the Williams team looking a little bit nervous and edgy at this moment in time, as there's Derek Warwick in 10th place, who is behind the Ferrari of Stefano Modena, who is now up in 9th place. Warwick around the outside of the Monteverde of Eric Bernard, who is down at the back of the field. So we have 20... Well, oh, that's Boutsen! Thierry Boutsen out of the Portuguese Grand Prix. And that is an engine failure in the Honda, and his teammate almost trips over him. So I'm afraid Thierry Boutsen will not be repeating his victory at the Italian Grand Prix. Oh, and Martini's out of the race as well. So what's happened to the Minardi? At exactly the same time, a gearbox failure. So Martini moves over and lets teammate Martin Brundle go. So Martini and Boutsen are out together. Oh dear, Pierluigi Martini crashes the car, pulling off at the same time with gearbox failure. So both Martini and Boutsen out of the Portuguese Grand Prix. And that is very unfortunate for the two drivers, particularly for Boutsen after he won the Italian Grand Prix last time out, his second win of this 1990 campaign. So Williams only now have one car left running in the race. Where is the crane manoeuvring? Oh, is that taken out? Senna! Senna's gone off! Senna has gone off! And he's out! Senna has overshot. Now, I think he got distracted. Senna got distracted there. He's gone straight off the road, and Ayrton Senna throws away the lead of the Portuguese Grand Prix. Absolutely astonishing for the McLaren. So Ayrton Senna is out of the Portuguese Grand Prix. The marshals were manoeuvring Thierry Boutsen's car off the road, and Ayrton Senna, it was like he got distracted by the car being winched off the racetrack. And so Senna, unbelievably, is out. And Modena is out. Modena is out of the Grand Prix now. What's happened to Stefano Modena? A throttle issue, a sticking throttle in the Ferrari. So Stefano Modena is out of the Portuguese Grand Prix as well now. Well, what a shame for the Italian, with Senna crashing out of the race on the half distance. So that gives Heinz-Harald Frentzen the lead of the Portuguese Grand Prix as Mansell passes his stricken teammate. But Stefano Modena is out of the Portuguese Grand Prix. So a crazy few laps, and I think we've had I think we've had a moment from Alain Prost, who's down the order. Prost, I think, has spun the Brabham and got going again. I think we saw that briefly. Yes, Prost is now down in 10th position. So all sorts of problems. And this man, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, is now leading the Portuguese Grand Prix after Senna's accident. Well, just as I was talking up Ayrton Senna's chances of becoming a double world champion, he throws it away. And Riccardo Patrese is now unlikely to lose the lead of the Drivers' Championship. Because Senna is out, Berger and Häkkinen are 3rd and 4th in the championship, but Berger is outside the top 10, and Häkkinen is currently in 5th position in the Brabham. So Brabham's going to get closer to the mark with Riccardo Patrese's tally. In fact, if Häkkinen finishes 5th, that gives him 6 points. So he's going to equal Patrese if he stays there. And Ivan Capelli pits in from P2 in the Leighton House. That puts Chiva in the Ligier into 2nd. Patrese in the Williams up into 3rd. Absolutely astonishing Grand Prix. But unfortunately for McLaren, their chances of victory have gone up in smoke before half distance. And that's Ayrton Senna crashing out in the lead. And Häkkinen is coming into the pits as well in the Brabham, so that's going to drop him out of the top 10. So here is your new race leader, Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Tyrrell, looking for his 3rd win of the 1990 season. Tyrrell are back, it seems. And if they take the victory this time, they're going to overtake Nelson Piquet in the Drivers' Championship for Frentzen as Bernard locks up. He is currently down in 16th place out of 17. But Ayrton Senna walks away from his McLaren at the side of the road. He can't quite believe that he has crashed out of the Portuguese Grand Prix. He was distracted by Thierry Boutsen's recovery. And I'm afraid that is the race leader out of the Portuguese Grand Prix. What a thriller this is turning out to be here at Estoril. And it's the Tyrrell of Frentzen who leads ahead of Eddie Chiva's Ligier. Well, no, it's not Chiva's Ligier, it's Patrese. What's happened on the straight? Patrese's got past because Chiva's in the pits. That's what the issue is. So Chiva coming into the pits for his 2nd stop. Dave Goddard, team boss of the Ligier team, must be having kittens. Chiva's in 4th and Larini's in 6th. So the Ligier team are having a terrific race here in Portugal. So 8.4 seconds later, Larini goes through, Capelli's going to go through, and so is Alain Prost in the Brabham, I think. Alboreto will probably not quite manage to get past Eddie Chiva's Ligier, but Mansell is now back in the points as Häkkinen and Berger go side by side down the home straight for 11th. And Häkkinen is pulling clear. So Häkkinen should just cut across Berger's McLaren. Yes, indeed, he does. Now here's Riccardo Patrese in the Williams, who is now 2nd. He is looking for his 1st win of the season. If he gets it now, that really is going to give Riccardo Patrese his best possible chance of becoming world champion and carrying the number 1 car to the Ligier team. What a crazy Portuguese Grand Prix. Mansell has had an off, Prost has had an off, Häkkinen has really struggled, Berger's had an off, and Senna has crashed out of the Grand Prix while leading by over half a minute. So Ayrton Senna still making the characteristic mistakes we saw from him in 88, it seems. He's really struggling under the pressure. Perhaps his fortunes will change at Williams, but he's still in the title fight for the World Championship. But this race win gone has definitely cost him a chance to take a almost certain lead in the Drivers' Championship. So now it's the German Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Tyrrell. He started 7th on the grid. He's had good pace this weekend compared to his teammate Alesi, who has crashed out with Andrea De Cesaris. As Gasho returns to the circuit from his pit stop, we could be seeing a very interesting top 10 at the flag here, because we're only on lap 39. And Ayrton Senna is out. It's a Tyrrell leading for Heinz-Harald Frentzen for the 3rd time this season. He could get a victory, as up the inside goes Eddie Chiva to lap Gasho's Coloni. Patrese in 2nd in the Williams. Alessandro Nannini in the Benetton is 3rd. Don't forget how he won the Hungarian Grand Prix just by keeping in the fight, essentially. There's Alain Prost, 7th in the Brabham behind Warwick, Larini and Capelli. So Derek Warwick in the Lotus is 4th. Larini's Ligier is in 5th place. Capelli in the Leighton House is 6th. Prost in the Brabham is in 7th place. And 8th is Eddie Chiva's Ligier. 9th is Alboreto. We've got yellow flags. It's Warwick! Oh no! Derek Warwick in the Lotus was doing such a good job, but he loses the back end in exactly the same place that his teammate De Cesaris did. So Warwick pulls the car onto the grass so that he can try and spin turn the car back into the race. But Derek Warwick, the Lotus was in 4th position. But I'm afraid Derek Warwick really has thrown things away there. What a shame. And that puts Mansell up into 9th place. It puts Hakkinen into 10th and Warwick and Lotus out of the points. And Capelli and Larini are having a great battle down the home straight, I do believe, as they run for position. It's Capelli who gets through on Nicola Larini as Warwick gets the car back on the road, but down in 12th position. So Lotus, who were looking for a 4th place finish, they have a mistake, they have a problem, and they're now down the order. So Frentzen leads, Patrese is 2nd, Nannini is 3rd, Capelli is 4th from Larini, Prost, Chiva, Alboreto, Mansell and Hakkinen. Well, it's a very dramatic day at the office here in Estoril, but Ayrton Senna, fighting to win the 1990 World Championship, crashes out from the lead, which he had by over half a minute, to the Tyrrell of Heinz-Harald Frentzen. So now it all falls to the German out front. Patrese is 2nd. This man, Alessandro Nannini, and the sole remaining Benetton, is in 3rd position. They're going to switch from Ford engines to Porsche as Ford pull the plug on their Works Formula 1 project. I wonder when they'll return. Bernard getting a bit of a mistake there as he locks up and lets the Brabham of... that's got to be Prost going through, and Chiva's going to get Prost! Chiva gets a move there on Alain Prost. That was so nicely handled. We ride on board with Eddie Chiva. Prost hesitates, slapping Bernard in the Monteverdi, and Chiva keeps his foot flat on the floor and gets through. Up into 6th position. Great opportunistic manoeuvring there from Eddie Chiva in the Ligier, who now moves up into 6th place, but Prost is going to try and get him back on the slipstream up towards turn 1. Prost slots the car on the inside. Chiva holds it round the outside. So the Ligiers are now 5th and 6th. So Dave Goddard must be very happy with the way the Ligier team are handling the Portuguese Grand Prix. We're on lap 41 of 71, 31 laps to go. As Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Tyrrell continues his advantage up front. Here's Alboreto, diving up the inside of the colony of Gasho to lap him. And Alboreto is currently running in 8th place, being caught by the Ferrari of Nigel Mansell, who can run to the end of this Grand Prix, don't forget. So Mansell could still come up with some decent points here in the Ferrari. He had the spin earlier on. Imagine if he hadn't spun, he'd be leading the Grand Prix at this moment. So the Ligier of Eddie Chiva doing a grand job in 6th position behind his teammate Nicola Larini. 5th and 6th, the two Ligiers, and they could do with some championship points because they are trying to stretch away from Arrows and potentially overtake Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship. So it's looking good from their point of view. That's Adrian Fernandez, who has already had a big off. But look, he's got it back to the pits. He has repaired the car. New front wing and new rear wing. So Fernandez is able to get going again. These new clip-on rear wings, they basically just take the frame off. The yellow flags are out, and it's Gasho. So Gasho is out of the race. It's an oil leak. Oh, dear. A very graphic one as well. So flames out of the back of the Coloni as Bertrand Gachot retires from the race. He was in 16th position regardless. So not a great end to the race for the Belgian. And that reduces the field to just 16 cars. 10 retirements in the Portuguese Grand Prix. Mauricio Gugelmin, who spun off in the early stages from P4 and stalled the engine. JJ Leto with mechanical failure. Piquet with a blown engine. Alesi and De Cesaris collided in the final sector and both cars were out on the spot. Martini had a mechanical failure. Thierry Boutsen likewise. Modena had a throttle linkage issue. Ayrton Senna was too busy watching Thierry Boutsen's car being recovered from the field. And Senna actually made the mistake and went off the road. So Senna out of the race, crashed out, hit the wall, and game over. And Bertrand Gachot has just suffered an oil leak. So a couple of the cars out there on the circuit are going to need to be careful in that final sector, because it could get quite slippery. Here's Alboreto trying to shake off Mika Häkkinen's Brabham. So Mika Häkkinen in 9th position, and he's got Nigel Mansell behind him. So Häkkinen has clearly made his way past the Ferrari of Mansell, but Häkkinen is on a lighter fuel load, so Mansell still with great opportunities to move his way forward. Here's Häkkinen making the jump on Alboreto in the Arrows. And so Häkkinen gets by on the home straight. No major panics indeed there for the Finn. So up into 8th place goes Häkkinen. Just behind his teammate Prost, who is trying to recover after his earlier mishap. Here's the race leader, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, as he closes up on the Minardi of Martin Brundle. Martin Brundle, I believe, has yet to score a point in the Drivers' World Championship this year. Minardi have scored points as Alboreto locks up, trying to get away from the man in front of him. I do apologise. 5 points have been scored by Martin Brundle in this year's World Championship, but Mansell is going to make the move on Alboreto, and the Ferrari gets up into 9th place. Now Mansell will go to the end of the race, all being well. He's rather fortunate that he was able to get his car back onto the circuit without damage after his earlier spin. But there's Riccardo Patrese, the man who's looking to extend his lead in the Drivers' Championship. A few minutes ago, he was barely on course to get a podium. And there's Martin Brundle, about to be lapped by the Tyrrell of Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who will come by without any problems at all. And he does indeed lap the Minardi, as Heinz-Harald Frentzen looks good for another crack at another victory. Can he make it 3 wins this season? There's Nannini in the Benetton on lap 44 out of 71 in the Portuguese Grand Prix. Prost making it a little bit awry there. Oh, going right off the circuit. And he's fortunate there. Has the car been damaged in any way? No, it looks okay to me. So Alain Prost in the Brabham able to continue, despite a very hairy moment. Now Berger is 1 place away from the championship points. He needs to catch up to Alboreto as Häkkinen locks up in the Brabham, getting stuck behind Bernard. Now what's happened with Chiva and Larini? I think Chiva has managed to get past his Italian teammate. Let's have another look at it. Indeed, Larini and Chiva are on different strategies, so the Ligier team just decide, you know what, let Chiva go. He's on a different strategy, so the Ligier team are playing this out nicely, trying to maximise the points they will score compared to Ferrari and Leitenhaus, as they want to try and boost their position in the Constructors' Championship. And with this kind of display, they're definitely going to get there. Leitenhaus have Capelli in 4th place, but Ligier have 5th and 6th at the moment, so a good haul of points for Ligier. That could overtake them ahead of Ferrari again, and certainly stretch them further away from Arrows, who are only on course for a 10th place finish at the moment. There's your leader, Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Tyrrell. 2 wins already for the German this year, and the team are 3rd in the Constructors' Championship, just 10 points behind Williams, as Mansell gets past the Monteverdi to put a lap on Eric Bernard. And now Alboreto has a chance to move his way further forward. That's Gerhard Berger in the McLaren in the background, trying to get back into the top 10 after his earlier spin. What a fascinating Portuguese Grand Prix. Frentzen is only 4.6 seconds ahead of the Williams of Riccardo Patrese. But looking at their lap times at the moment, you can see that Capelli is actually the fastest man on track. Frenzen's really struggling in the traffic, as you can see. So there are problems for him. He's not gaining as much as he would have liked. And that's Adrian Fernandez having a moment or two. But as you can see, Frentzen is the leader, but he's actually really struggling to set fast laps here. Patrese is about even with him in terms of pace, and the gap between them is only 4.5 seconds, so the battle between Frentzen and Patrese has still got a lot of life left in it. But it's the drivers further back that are actually causing a bit of a threat. Nannini in 3rd place is gaining a lot more ground than he would like, than Frentzen would like. Capelli's going faster than all of them, though. He's in the solid 118s. Goodness me. Capelli could be a threat for the victory in this one if he keeps this sort of pace up. Chiva's going even faster still. So the Ligier and the Leitenhaus are actually gaining big ground here as Prost struggles in the Brabham. Häkkinen's going a lot faster than his French teammate. So you get the impression that all is not quite done and dusted yet here at the Portuguese Grand Prix at Estoril. This is all going to be down to pit lane strategy as Patrese gets held up there a little bit by Martin Brundle's Minardi. So that could have been fairly messy. But Patrese has no problems at all there. The Italian dropped by the Williams team for 1990 despite the fact that he is leading the Drivers' Championship, which is very unusual as Patrese comes into the pits. So Patrese makes his dive for the pits. This is his 2nd and final pit stop. So the Williams of Riccardo Patrese will slip to about 5th or 6th position, I would think, in around Chiva and Larini. So the Williams team have obviously got to get him out onto the circuit with enough fuel to finish the race, which they have done. But Patrese needs to get to the end of the race with a decent finish on the cards. He still hasn't won a Grand Prix this year, despite the fact he's leading the Drivers' Championship. So we will follow Riccardo Patrese as he goes out onto the pit lane, out onto the straight. Nigel Mansell is out. What's happened there between Mansell and Alboreto? Mansell has spun again. Right into the path of Alboreto, I do believe. Yes, indeed. So Mansell and Alboreto have struck each other. A very similar incident to that of De Cesaris and Alesi from earlier on. So here it is. Mansell loses the car, nudges the car, tries to get back on, but he nerfs Alboreto. So I'm afraid Mansell and Alboreto are both out of the Portuguese Grand Prix. So a disaster for Arrows and Ferrari today. Neither team will score points unless Fernandez manages to make it into 10th position. So a double non-finish for Ferrari at Estoril, and they really couldn't have afforded that today, especially with Mansell getting pole position. So Frentzen slows as the yellow flags are out for Mansell and Alboreto. And that's going to elevate Berger into 9th, and Brundle in the Minardi is now going to come up to 10th place. So great news for Minardi, not great news for Ferrari. Well, Ivan Capelli's doing a fine job. He's in 3rd place in the Leighton House. But the Honda Works outfit is obviously going to be all Japanese for 1991. So both Capelli and Gugelmin have had to find seats elsewhere. Capelli will go to the Monteverdi team. And Mauricio Gugelmin has been confirmed at Lola for next year. So Frentzen, Nannini, Capelli, Chiva and Larini. That is not the top 5 many people expected at this stage of the Grand Prix. As Patrese runs in 6th place in the Williams, Prost is 7th, Hakkinen is 8th, Berger is 9th, and Martin Brundle is in 10th. Warwick is 11th, Katayama is 12th, Bernard is now 13th. 14th is Adrian Fernandez, and that's it. Alboreto and Mansell are out of the race. So is Gasho. Senna crashed out while leading. Modena in the Ferrari had throttle problems. Boutsen had a water leak, I think it was. Martini with problems. Alesi and De Cesaris took each other out in a very similar manner to the way that Mansell and Alboreto have just exited the race. Piquet is out, Leto is out, and Gugelmin is out. So there are only 14 cars left in the Portuguese Grand Prix as Nannini locks up in 2nd place in the Benetton. So Nannini's... Oh, someone's in trouble! That's the Coloni of Katayama. So Katayama spins in exactly the same place as we saw Mansell and Alboreto going off. I wonder if there's oil down from that oil leak of Bertrand Gachot, because a lot of drivers seem to have made mistakes there. And that's where we seem to have had a lot of the flotsam and jetsam of the Grand Prix. But Heinz-Harald Frentzen leads in the Tyrrell. Is he going to be able to make it to the victory of the Portuguese Grand Prix? Or is it going to be the Benetton of Alessandro Nannini? Here's Patrese making his bid on Larini in the Ligier. So that puts him up into 5th position. The championship leader still trying to bag some points. And a nice undercut manoeuvre tried there from Larini. But he has to concede. So Frentzen, Nannini, Capelli, Chiva, Patrese is the order at the moment. And it looks as though the Italian, Riccardo Patrese in the Williams, is going to extend his lead in the Drivers' Championship. So Larini, whoops, he locks up the Ligier there. So a very difficult scenario for several drivers in this race, including both Senna and Mansell, as they retire from the 1990 Portuguese Grand Prix. And this time at least, Mansell retires in a slightly more respectable manner than he did at this circuit a year ago, as Frentzen comes into the pits from the lead in the Tyrrell. And this will be his 2nd and final pit stop. Now, this probably won't hand the lead to Nannini, because I have a feeling he's going to be coming into the pits on this lap as well in the Benetton. Although, no, Nannini does pass the pits. So Alessandro Nannini in the Benetton takes the lead, and Ivan Capelli in the Leighton House takes 2nd position. But how many laps has Nannini got? Oh, Nannini's on a one-stop strategy, isn't he? So Nannini can go to the end of the race here. So it's Nannini in the Benetton that leads. Capelli's got to pit in again, but Frentzen doesn't, because Frentzen will go to the end of the race. So it's now Nannini in the Benetton, who started 3rd, who can go to the end of this Grand Prix and is just keeping it nicely lit. So Berger is into the pits from 9th. That will drop him behind Warwick and Brundle. But what a astonishing Portuguese Grand Prix this is, as Frenson laps Katayama in the Coloni. And he's trying to get away from Eddie Chiva's Ligier, who is still on an absolute charge forward. In fact, Chiva is one of the fastest drivers on the circuit at the moment. Patrese is faster than anybody. In the Williams, fresh tyres is what's giving him the motivation to move forward, and he's only 13 seconds off the lead. So there's still a chance for Patrese in this Grand Prix. As Chiva tries to lap Katayama's Coloni. The Coloni gets out of the way, but only just, as that is a real wobble from Chiva as the car twitches almost out of his control. But Frenson in 3rd position is now on the warpath, trying to close up on Capelli. He doesn't need to overtake him because Capelli is going to make a pit stop of his own. As into the pits comes Prost in the Brabham, I do believe. Behind Nicola Larini. Oh no, it is Larini that comes in. So Larini in the Ligier comes into the pits. So the battle is still raging on lap 51 of 71. 21 laps left in this Portuguese Grand Prix, and it's this man, Alessandro Nannini, in the Benetton, who is the favourite to take the victory. And what a way this would be to set up his final hurrah in the season. He's already had a victory this year at the Hungarian Grand Prix, and another victory would put him up to 52 points in the Drivers' Championship, which would take him ahead of Mauricio Gugelmin and alongside his 3-time world champion teammate Nelson Piquet. So it could be a fascinating end to this championship with 3 races to go. There's still a handful of drivers who could become world champion in 1990. As Ivan Capelli... Oh, Capelli spins in the Leighton House. He spins the car, gets back on directly in front of Frenson, who waits and then gets past him. So Frenson moves into 2nd regardless. That's a big mistake from Ivan Capelli. He couldn't afford to make that mistake really in terms of the race strategy. So that's going to cost him dear. So Capelli is going to drop behind Chiva, who will get onto the podium at this rate. And Patrese is going to be elevated to 4th. So fascinating situations here in the rankings of this race. It's been an absolutely stunning Grand Prix. But Nannini leads the way. Frenson in 2nd place. Capelli is 3rd. Chiva is 4th. Patrese is 5th place. And that's Berger going off again. Oh, Gerhard Berger loses the car. And that's going to cost McLaren any chance of points today, surely, because Warwick is going to get past him into 9th place. Brundle is going to get past into 10th position once more. So McLaren have really wasted every opportunity they've been given today, and they've been given some very good ones. So Berger trying to get the car back on the circuit as Warwick and Brundle both go by. But I think Katayama's going to go through into 11th. Fernandez is going to go through into 12th. Bernard is going to go through into 13th. So Berger is going to drop out of the top 10. His renaissance and his return to the sport has been incredibly lackluster by his standards. So Berger rejoins the circuit. He's actually facing the wrong way now. Spin turns the car. Nothing too untoward with that, as Capelli is trying to close up again on Frenson. Frenson, meanwhile, has now got to grips with these fresh tyres and is setting off in pursuit of Nannini. And Nannini's just done a 1:20.0. Frenson is rapid. He's just done a 1:17.9 in his bid to close up on Alessandro Nannini. So Frenson is determined to win this Grand Prix and has a great chance to do so. He's got the gap down to 5.5 seconds. The old tyres of Nannini's Benetton have started to fall away. So there is Nannini in the Benetton. And the tyre wear in this car is what is Nannini's downfall. In terms of strategy, they've got him out in a good position, but Frenson in the Tyrrell is catching rapidly. So Frenson pushes hard there. He actually locks up into the hairpin. He needs to be careful as he doesn't want to push the Tyrrell too hard. But a very tricky part of the course, this, and a very easy one to make mistakes. So Frenson's got to be ever so careful. But Alessandro Nannini leads the Portuguese Grand Prix at Estoril, which would be a very important race for both he and Benetton to win, because it would bring Nannini equal to his teammate, but it would also put Benetton nearly on a par with Tyrrell in the Constructors' Championship. They would certainly extend their advantage over Brabham in the Constructors' Championship. Prost ahead of Hakkinen. Hakkinen now taking on his teammate Prost, and that's the Rini spinning off! Oh, Larini spins off, and that's a wheel off the Ligier. So Larini is out of the race from 8th position. What a shame, as Hakkinen fails to get past his teammate Prost. That puts Warwick in the Lotus up into 8th place. Brundle in the Minardi is now in 9th. And Katayama in the Coloni is up in 10th position. So Coloni could well score their first Constructors' Championship point of the 1990 season. Now here's Nannini, and he's currently behind Brundle's Minardi, who is about to go up into 9th place. There's Frentzen in the Tyrrell, so there's not much to choose between the two leaders. And there's Capelli in the Leighton House, and he's being caught by Chiva in the Ligier. And Patrese is very close in behind as well, so Patrese seeking a podium. Capelli still needs to make a pit stop, don't forget, as does Chiva. So Patrese is on course for 2nd place in this Grand Prix. So with Larini out of the race, that's going to promote Berger to 11th, Fernandez to 12th, and Bernard to 13th, and that's all we've got left. We had 13 finishers in the pre-qualifying race, and it looks as though we're only going to get 13 maximum in the Portuguese Grand Prix. So Hakkinen tries again on Alain Prost as the Brabhams go down the main straight. Berger runs a little bit wide, but it results in nothing. What's happening between the two Brabhams as they nudge each other? They bang wheels! Goodness me, we need to see that again. Because Hakkinen is determined to get past Prost. Prost is determined to shake him off. And they banged wheels in turn 1. Let's watch. How on earth did they avoid a big accident there? But Hakkinen is getting very frustrated now by his world champion teammate. Prost is a 3 times world champion, don't forget. He won last year. He won in 85 and 86. But Mika Hakkinen is getting fed up of playing the number 2 role to Alain Prost. There could be some in-house games that need to be made right there by team boss Ewan Gale, because notably, Prost seems to have taken on the role of team leader at Brabham since moving to the team, with Hakkinen struggling ever since Prost has arrived. So let's see how that one plays out in the grand scheme of things. Patrese has got the gap down to 8.7 behind race leader Alessandro Nannini. Capelli and Chiva are the men in front of him, but both of them need to pit again as Hakkinen and Prost are next up. Prost can go the distance of the Grand Prix. Hakkinen needs to pit again. That's why Hakkinen's trying to pass his teammate, because he needs to maximise the time that he will lose to the guys in front. Here's Nannini being caught by Patrese and obviously by Frentzen as well. Here's Hakkinen on the home straight. Now, has the world champion got the message and let Hakkinen go? This time, yes, he does, although Prost is trying to hang in there, but Hakkinen does get by. So Prost decides he will play the team game because Hakkinen is going to pit anyway. But that really has cost Brabham a massive amount of momentum there. And that's going to cost Hakkinen dearly at the finish. He's going to slip to 7th place, a long way back from his teammate. With not much of a chance of getting back into the top 6 unless something happens to the drivers in front. Here's Nannini in the Benetton. He leads the Grand Prix. Second is Frentzen, and this is how close he's been able to get. We're on lap 56 of 71. It's not going to be long at all before the Tyrrell catches Nannini and passes him for the race victory. And that's where we're headed at the moment. So Alessandro Nannini in the Benetton Ford, being caught by the Tyrrell Honda of the German star Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who is becoming a very important name in the sport this year. As into the pits comes Capelli and Chiva. They come in together. So both cars are in the pits at the same time. It's yet another pit stop race between the two. So Capelli comes in. Chiva has to wait for Capelli this time. So Capelli makes the pit stop. Who's going to get out first? Is it going to be Leighton House or Ligier? Last time it was Ligier that jumped the Leighton House team. So the Leighton House team doing their best, and this time it's Leighton House. So Chiva has to concede as Hakkinen comes into the pits as well, and that will drop him to 7th place. So Prost is up to 4th, Patrese is up to 3rd, and Frentzen is now right behind Alessandro Nannini in the Benetton as they duel over the race victory. So this could be the ultimate battle for victory in this Grand Prix then, as Nannini on lap 57 of 71, 15 laps remaining, including this one, which is almost over, is going to be the fight to the Grand Prix victory. And what a battle it is turning out to be. Absolutely sensational. So this is going to be the tight fight as they come through at the end of a thrilling Grand Prix. Down the straight, along the main straight, and Frenson's going to try into turn 1. This is it. Frenson takes the lead. Great run from the German as Heinz-Harald Frenson in the Tyrrell Honda takes the lead of the Portuguese Grand Prix back from Alessandro Nannini. And so the Benetton will continue in second place. Frenson now wanting to stretch out the gap because he knows that Patrese is not a million miles away. And Ukyo Katayama in the Coloni comes into the pits. That will drop him to 11th place. And the Scuderia Coloni team are really hoping for a point in the Constructors' Championship here. There is a good chance of it, but you never know. So Riccardo Patrese still running strong in third position in the Williams, but he is gaining ground on Alessandro Nannini all the time. But it's this man who now leads the Portuguese Grand Prix. Heinz-Harald Frenson in the Tyrrell Honda, doing a grand job as he leads at Estoril. Patrese is third in the Williams, trying to close up on Nannini as Capelli has a bit of a moment there. He's still having a terrific battle with Eddie Cheever. So those two continue their squabble for fifth position in the Grand Prix with Hakkinen in seventh. Warwick is 8th. 9th is Martin Brundle in the Minardi. There he is being lapped by Patrese. And 10th is Gerhard Berger's McLaren after his earlier 2 spins. So a fascinating Grand Prix in operation as we come to the closing stages of it. Ivan Capelli running in 5th place ahead of Eddie Cheever's Ligier. So Capelli in the Leighton House and Cheever in the Ligier. But Frenson and Tyrrell are looking for win number 3 this season. Tyrrell for win number 5 in what has been an astonishing year for them. And they will have won a race more, 2 races more than the McLaren team have done, who are leading the Constructors' Championship. So Tyrrell are currently the most successful team in Grand Prix racing in 1990 in terms of Grand Prix wins. Nobody would have predicted that at the start of the season. And that's Derek Warwick spinning again in the Lotus. This time he catches it, facing in the right direction. But Derek Warwick certainly didn't need another mishap in the Lotus. They're going to come home in 8th place as it is. And Warwick could easily have been on the podium today. So a big problem for them. But so many big names are gone from this Grand Prix. Only Riccardo Patrese, Alessandro Nannini, Alain Prost and Heinz-Harald Frenson really survive. Hakkinen has dropped to 7th. Berger has dropped to 10th. So they have had the problems as well. But what a stunning situation. So what an absolutely phenomenal situation we have here at the Grand Prix. So a fantastic situation for Frenson, who is 2.2 seconds now clear of Nannini. He is stretching out the gap. He's also pulling away from Riccardo Patrese in the Williams, it's worth noting. So Patrese is there in third position, trying to close up on Alessandro Nannini. But all of this is going to mean that Riccardo Patrese will extend his lead in the Drivers' Championship at the moment to 80 points. To a score of 80 points, which will be a 16-point advantage over Senna and Berger. Depending on where Hakkinen finishes, Hakkinen could score 4 points here. In 7th place as Cheever locks up. That's going to cost him in his battle with Capelli. But at least he hasn't gone off the road like his teammate Larini did. So Capelli in 5th, Cheever in 6th place. Brabham look like they're going to be the only team to score a double points finish here in the Portuguese Grand Prix. Everybody else has lost at least 1, if not 2 of their cars from the Grand Prix. The only team, I think, that has lost both of their cars from the Portuguese Grand Prix is actually the Ferrari team, which is rather unfortunate for them because Mansell qualified in pole position, had a really good shot at winning the Portuguese Grand Prix. And this is Berger on the... This is Berger trying to unlap himself, I do believe, from Alain Prost in the Brabham. So Prost is a lap ahead of Gerhard Berger. That's not what Gerhard Berger wanted, especially considering he is joint second in the Drivers' Championship at this point. So a very unusual situation, although it is Senna that is technically second in the Drivers' Championship on countback due to the number of wins he's had. So a fascinating scenario continues to play out here in the Portuguese Grand Prix of Estoril as Riccardo Patrese is trying to close up on Alessandro Nannini. The gap between them is about 6 seconds. I'd be fascinated to see the lap time difference between them. Well, Patrese is taking about 0.3 of a second a lap out of Nannini. Interestingly, now that Frenson has got into the lead past Nannini, he has slowed down a little bit. He's not pushing as hard as he has to. So Capelli is the fastest man on track at the moment. And that is great news for the Italian as he continues to step up the attack. Now, Nannini is on a 1:19.7, Patrese on a 1:19.3. So, obviously, Riccardo Patrese is trying to get himself into second position before this Grand Prix is over. So, absolutely fantastic Grand Prix here in Portugal. 10 laps to go. And it's Frenson who leads in the Tyrrell ahead of Alessandro Nannini in the Benetton and Riccardo Patrese in the Williams. Prost is 4th in the Brabham, Capelli is 5th in the Leighton House, 6th is Chivas Ligier, 7th is Hakkinen in the other Brabham, 8th is Warwick in the Lotus, 9th is the Minardi of Martin Brundle, and 10th is Gerhard Berger in the McLaren. So Nannini doing a grand job in the Benetton, just trying to stay in front of Riccardo Patrese's Williams. Patrese would love to get into P2, because that would give him his best possible chance of extending his lead in the Drivers' Championship. At this moment, nobody has ever won the World Championship by failing to win a race and just staying consistently in the top 3. But Patrese has had 2 seconds, 2 thirds, 3 fourth places and a 9th place finish, as well as actually a disqualification from the Monaco Grand Prix. The whole Williams team were thrown out in Monaco. So Patrese could well have been even further ahead in the championship had it not been for that problem at Monaco, as Nannini loses another second, and that's Capelli! Can he catch it? Capelli tries to catch the car in front of Chiva. Chiva is right there on the scene. He didn't take the opportunity to get past him. So that's a problem for Capelli as Bernard locks up in behind Frenson's Tyrrell. So Frenson's still leading the way in the Portuguese Grand Prix. And Capelli gets away with a spin there, although Chiva will definitely be wanting to take advantage of the mistake at some point over the course of the next couple of laps, as we only have 9 laps left of the Portuguese Grand Prix. Nannini is still struggling to gain the position on Patrese. Patrese is going faster, but not that much faster. Hakkinen is actually the fastest man on track at the moment in 7th position, as he desperately tries to make up for the lost time after his pit stop. Just before that, of course, he was banging wheels with his teammate Alain Prost, who is now 4th in the Brabham. So Frenson leads the Portuguese Grand Prix and is looking good to seal the victory here at Estoril, with Nannini and Patrese trading sector times at the moment. Capelli is really struggling in 5th place. Another big lock-up as he tries to get away from Chivas Ligier. So the battle continues, but Eddie Chiva is now essentially just trying to keep Capelli guessing in the hope that the Italian will make a mistake somewhere around the course. But Alessandro Nannini in the Benetton runs in 2nd place, and he's starting to get away again from Patrese, who looks like the only thing he's going to take from this race is a 3rd place, not a 2nd place, as Nannini finds a little bit more pace in the tyres. And he's only 4 seconds behind Frenson, so the German cannot afford a mistake as Warwick makes one. So Warwick spins the Lotus. Now this could elevate Brundle into 9th position in the Menard, from 9th into 8th. So the leaders go by to lap Warwick. Brundle and Berger could both move up a position here, as Warwick tries to spin turn the Lotus back onto the race circuit. Gets the car moving, but I think he's got to wait to rejoin the circuit. There goes Brundle into 8th position, and there goes Gerhard Berger, I do believe, into 9th place. There he goes. So Berger in the McLaren is now going to move 2 points clear of his teammate Ayrton Senna. Although Senna did get a fastest lap, I do believe, in the Grand Prix. So that will actually only put him 1 point ahead of Ayrton Senna. But certainly it makes things just the tiniest bit tougher for Patrese, because Berger is going to score points, as is Hakkinen. In fact, Hakkinen is going to score 4 points, and he will move back into 2nd place in the Drivers' Championship ahead of Berger and Senna. But Patrese is looking at 3rd position at the moment. So the Williams driver still trying to get himself to the flag, but he doesn't seem to be able to get closer to Alessandro Nannini in the Benetton. So the battle is still well and truly joined, but Patrese is really struggling to get on terms with Alessandro Nannini, and I'm not sure he's going to catch him in time for this race to come to a finish. There is the Benetton. still at second place and still 4 seconds behind Frenson. Frenson is not really pulling away that much, as Brundle in the Minardi is looking to give the team another 3 points in the Constructors' Championship. And that's going to bring Brundle ahead of Giacomelli and Suzuki in the Drivers' Championship as well. So that is great news from Martin Brundle's point of view. And for the Minardi team, that will actually put them on 8 points in the Constructors' Championship. And there is Frenson, your race leader in the Tyrrell. He is not going to lose this one if he has any say in the matter. The Tyrrell is on lap 66 of 71. 6 laps to go here at Estoril. And Heinz-Harald Frenson is looking to put himself into a very strong position in the latter stages of the season. He has 39 points. A win will put him on 54. And that will take him ahead of PK, Gujamin and Derek Warwick in the Drivers' Championship rankings. So that will put him into 5th place in the Drivers' Championship. A big moment for Frenson. And that puts him right into the hunt for the championship, of course, as well. So Patrese is actually losing time to Nannini. He doesn't seem to have the tyre life left in the Williams that we thought he might have to close up on Nannini. But then Frenson isn't pushing harder than he has to. He's not really overworking the car. So Frenson is just keeping the Tyrrell neatly in position. He's not gaining any ground, but he's not losing time either. Well, he's gaining a couple of tenths of a second here or there now, I say, because the gap was steady at 4 seconds, and now Nannini is 4.7 seconds adrift, but Patrese has dropped to 11.5 seconds adrift, so the Williams doesn't seem to have the sustained pace to close up on Nannini's Benetton Ford. But Patrese, yet again, solid and consistent, will take a 3rd place finish if he stays where he is, and that will keep him very much alive in the championship fight. In fact, it will pull him away from Senna, Berger and Hakkinen, and it will bring Frenson with the win up into 5th position in the Drivers' Championship, fighting for the title himself. So an absolutely astonishing turn of events in this Grand Prix as Frenson continues in the Tyrrell on lap 67 of 71. And it looks like we could see a Tyrrell winning for the first time since the German Grand Prix at Hockenheim, which seems a million miles away from where we are now. But it's certainly a good performance and a good display from the Tyrrell team as Bernard is lapped by Riccardo Patrese, who gets through 11.7 seconds behind Frenson's Tyrrell. Still hoping for something to happen further up the road, the Italian, because he would love to get closer to Nannini. He would love to get closer to Frenson. He is on course to win the World Championship despite not winning a Grand Prix this year, which would be the first time in history that's ever happened. So Derek Warwick is down to 10th position in the Lotus, so Brundle and Berger have both gone through, but Lotus is still on course to score a point, and Derek Warwick will now be level with Mauricio Gujamin, still technically in the fight for the title as well. But he could have had a 4th place finish today, and that would have been right up in the hunt for the Drivers' Championship. Oh, that's Cheever going off! So Cheever in the Ligier has gone off. So Capelli has started to pull away from the American. But what happened to Eddie Cheever? It's coming up the hill into this very tricky corner. And then it's the next right-hander where he's lost the back end of the car. And he spins the Ligier, rubs the wall. I think he's going to be okay to recover, though. But the problem is Hakkinen going through? Yes, he is. So Hakkinen in the Brabham gets through into P6. So, good news for Mika Hakkinen. He is elevated into 6th position then in the closing stages of this Grand Prix, as Mika Hakkinen takes advantage of a spin for Eddie Cheever in the Ligier. It was going so well for them at one stage. They were 5th and 6th in the Ligiers. Now Cheever is the sole remaining Ligier in 7th position, as Frenson is on towards the end of lap 68. Nannini is nearly 5 seconds back now in the Benetton. But there's no major difficulties for the Italian as he runs in 2nd place ahead of Riccardo Patrese in the Williams. Prost is 4th in the Brabham. 5th is Capelli in the Leighton House. 6th is Hakkinen in the other Brabham. 7th place is Eddie Cheever in the Ligier. 8th is Gerhard Berger's McLaren now. He has overtaken Martin Brundle's Minardi once again. For 9th is now the Minardi. And in 10th place, it is Derek Warwick in the Lotus. As Riccardo Patrese goes into lap 69, 12.5 seconds back from the Tyrrell of Heinz-Harald Frenson. 3 laps remain in the Portuguese Grand Prix at Estoril. There are no problems for the leaders up front. Fernandez has finally caught back up to Ukyo Katayama. And so the Japanese driver is about to fall to 12th position at the hands of the Mexican Adrian Fernandez. Hakkinen still going well. Derek Warwick trying to close up on Ivan Capelli in order to unlap himself, the British driver. Martin Brundle trying to chase after Gerhard Berger, who is just a second ahead. But as you can see, everything is hunky-dory. No major difficulties and no major catastrophes at the moment for the remaining drivers in this Grand Prix here at Portugal. And so Heinz-Harald Frentzen has a 4-second advantage over Alessandro Nannini in the Benetton. And of course, the Tyrrell team will remain with Honda engines next year, but both Benetton and Williams will have Porsche engines in 1991. As Williams becomes the works entry for Porsche, they will supply Benetton as well. As Fernandez manages to get through past Okio Katayama, so unfortunately the chance of the point for Scuderia Coloni has now well and truly disintegrated. Frentzen's on the penultimate lap now. The Tyrrell driver looking good to hang on in front of Nannini, although that gap has come down between Frentzen and Nannini. Nannini has started to get a little bit of a wiggle on, as Frentzen has worked his tyres very hard indeed in the Tyrrell. And in fact, Nannini has closed to within 3.7 seconds of the Tyrrell. So Nannini is pushing hard for a final flourish. Has he left it too late? Or has Frentzen's tyres finally started to dissipate? Because Nannini is catching very quickly indeed. 0.3 of a second per sector is about a second per lap, of course, don't forget. So Nannini is making big grounds. No, Frentzen is just gauging his tyres. He's not really having a problem of any kind. It's just that Nannini is pushing and Frentzen is just conserving the car. So Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Tyrrell goes into the last lap of the Portuguese Grand Prix, out in the lead, having a great run. And it looks as though it's going to be his third win for Tyrrell in his maiden season of Grand Prix racing. What a story for Heinz-Harald Frentzen, as this man, Riccardo Patrese, is about to extend his lead in the Drivers' Championship with third place. There's Alessandro Nannini in the Benetton in second position, looking good to come home in fine style. The battle has fizzled out somewhat in the last few laps of the race, but Frentzen has only pushed as hard as he needs to. We've got two new incredible German talents in the sport now to really celebrate going into 1991, and they could become championship contenders and rivals in next season's battle. Heinz-Harald Frentzen for Tyrrell as Fernandez spins. I was going to mention that the other one was Michael Schumacher, who's joining Ferrari, but Fernandez has just spun and handed 11th place back to Katayama. What an embarrassment for the Mexican, who has really struggled here at Estoril. In fact, the whole Arrows team has really struggled, and I think Fernandez has to let Frentzen go by. So Frentzen in the Tyrrell comes out of the Parabolica, and it is a brilliant performance from the Tyrrell team, who have finally got themselves back into winning ways after a few races away from it. Heinz-Harald Frentzen comes down the home straight, and for the third time this year, the German wins the Portuguese Grand Prix. Frentzen wins for Tyrrell. Nannini is second for Benetton in the background. Great performance from Alessandro Nannini. He's back into the title fight. And Riccardo Patrese extends his lead to a score of 80 points, which is now 15 points ahead of Ayrton Senna, which is a point less ahead of Berger and several points less ahead of Hakkinen, who now moves into second place in the Drivers' Championship. Prost finishes fourth for Brabham. More points on the board for the reigning world champion. Ivan Capelli is fifth. Hakkinen is sixth. And he moves into second in the Drivers' Championship now, with Eddie Cheever in seventh position in the Ligier, ahead of Gerhard Berger in the Benetton, who gets 3 points on the board. So Hakkinen is now 2 points ahead of Berger and 4 points ahead of Ayrton Senna. But Patrese's third position keeps him in the lead of the Drivers' Championship. What an astonishing turn of events here in Portugal. But the win is taken by Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Tyrrell. He is a winner for the third time in 1990. Frentzen wins the Portuguese Grand Prix ahead of Alessandro Nannini in the Benetton. Riccardo Patrese's Williams extends the lead in the championship fight in third. Prost is fourth from Capelli, Hakkinen, Cheever, Berger, Martin Brundle and Derek Warwick, the last few point scorers. Ukyo Katayama is 11th in the Coloni from Adrian Fernandez in the Arrows. Eric Bernard finishes 13th and last. Larini crashed out, as did Alboreto and Mansell together. Senna. Gasho with an oil leak. Senna crashed out. Loss of concentration while leading. He should have taken the lead of the championship today. Modena with a throttle problem. Boutsen with an engine failure. Martini with a broken transmission. Alesi and De Cesaris took each other out of the race. Piquet had a blown engine. Leto with a loose wheel. And Gugelmin spinning out and stalling the engine on lap 4 whilst in 4th position. Goodness knows where he could have finished today. Senna picks up the bonus point for the fastest lap of the race, but it's little consolation for him because he has thrown away the chance to take the lead of the Drivers' Championship. And with 3 races to go, the next race at Jerez in Spain is absolutely critical. The Tyrrell team looking very strong with Frentzen, and Patrese as consistent as ever in 3rd position. A good 2nd place for Nannini. He's in the title fight as well. But as we head to the next race at Jerez de la Frontera in Spain, the title fight is reaching fever pitch. I'm Jake Sanson. See you next time.